Have you ever felt exhausted, frustrated, or even guilty after disciplining your child? You're not alone. Discipline is one of the most challenging parts of parenting, not because we don't care, but because we care deeply. We want to raise kind, respectful, emotionally healthy children, but the path to doing that often feels unclear. What if, instead of yelling, punishing, or threatening, we could actually turn discipline into something healing, connecting, and transformational? This is the heart of no-drama discipline, a parenting approach that isn't about being permissive or letting kids off the hook. It's about shifting from punishment to teaching, from control to connection, and from chaos to calm. Dr. Daniel Siegel and Dr. Payne Bryson, both experts in child development and neuroscience, offer parents a new lens to view discipline, not as punishment, but as an opportunity to build our child's brain and character. The book opens by redefining what discipline really means. The word discipline actually comes from the Latin root disciplina, which means to teach, to guide. But so often in modern parenting, we confuse discipline with punishment. We react in anger, we lecture, we impose consequences, all in the name of disciplining our kids, yet many of these responses don't teach anything lasting. They may stop the behavior in the moment, but do they build understanding? Empathy? Long-term growth? Imagine this: your toddler throws a toy at their sibling. You're tired. You're overwhelmed. You yell, "Go to your room." They stomp off, crying. Later, you feel awful. You wonder, did they even understand what they did wrong? Or did they just feel isolated and angry? Siegel and Bryson invite us to pause and ask, what do I want to teach in this moment? Instead of focusing on immediate control, the no-drama discipline approach emphasizes long-term learning. That doesn't mean letting things slide. It means connecting first. So your child feels safe and seen, and then calmly redirecting them in ways that actually help their brain grow. You see, a child's brain, especially in the early years, is still under construction. The emotional, reactive parts, the downstairs brain, are often in charge, especially when they're upset. The logical, reflective parts, the upstairs brain, are still developing. That's why young children, and even teens, struggle to regulate their emotions. They aren't being manipulative or disrespectful. They're simply overwhelmed. And when we respond to that overwhelm with more drama, yelling, harsh consequences, shame, we shut down connection and growth. The authors use a powerful metaphor throughout the book: connect and redirect. This means that before trying to correct a behavior, we first connect emotionally. We get down on their level. We validate their feelings. I can see you're really upset. That was hard for you. Once the child feels understood and calm, we can then guide them toward better choices. Next time, let's use words instead of hitting. Let's clean up together. It might sound too gentle at first, but the science behind it is strong. When children feel safe and connected, they're more receptive to learning. Their brains are literally more open to input. And over time, they begin to internalize the lessons we're teaching, not because they're afraid of us, but because they trust us. Another core message in the opening chapters is this: discipline is most effective when it aligns with your long-term parenting goals. Most of us would say we want our kids to be responsible, kind, resilient, respectful. So when we discipline, we have to ask ourselves, is what I'm doing right now building those qualities? If yelling, punishing, or shaming doesn't teach the lesson we truly want to impart, then maybe it's time for a better way. Real-life examples are woven throughout the book. A parent navigating a tantrum in the grocery store. A teen slamming the door in frustration. A preschooler refusing to share. In each case, the no-drama approach starts with understanding the child's internal world, then guiding them with calm, firm, connected teaching. This doesn't mean permissiveness or lack of boundaries. In fact, the book emphasizes that structure and limits are essential. But they must be given with empathy, not anger. A child who hears, "I love you too much to let you act this way," learns very differently than a child who hears, "Go to your room and don't come out until you behave." As you continue listening, you'll discover how this approach applies to toddlers, school-aged children, and even teens. You'll hear brain-based insights made simple, memorable scripts for difficult moments, and encouragement that makes you feel less alone. No drama. Discipline isn't about being a perfect parent. It's about being a present, thoughtful, and emotionally intelligent one. It's about moving from reactivity to responsiveness. From punishment to teaching. From frustration to connection. So if you've ever found yourself thinking, "There has to be a better way," this book is your guide. As we move into Chapter 2, the book gently zooms in on something every parent has wrestled with: why do kids misbehave in the first place? And perhaps more importantly, how can we respond in ways that don't just manage behavior, but nurture our child's development? This chapter begins with a message many parents need to hear, especially on the tough days: misbehavior isn't always defiance. In fact, it's often communication. Children are not tiny adults with fully developed logic and self-control. They're still learning how to express big feelings, manage impulses, and understand consequences. Imagine a 5-year-old who keeps interrupting you while you're on a work call. You've told them to wait, repeatedly, but they just keep bursting in with questions. It's easy to label that behavior as disrespectful or even disobedient. But what if we paused and asked, what is my child trying to tell me? What need is driving this behavior? This is the heart of Chapter 2. Shifting our mindset from seeing behavior as something to fix, to seeing it as something to understand. Instead of asking, "How do I get my kid to stop this?" the more helpful question becomes, "What's going on inside my child that's making them act this way?" It might be hunger, fatigue, overstimulation, a need for connection, a feeling they can't express. Often, misbehavior is a sign that a child's internal world is out of balance, and they don't yet have the tools to ask for help in a more acceptable way. The authors explain that when we focus only on what the child did, we miss the deeper opportunity to teach and connect. But when we seek to understand why, with curiosity rather than judgment, we're able to respond in ways that actually help them grow. They use a simple analogy: when a child falls and scrapes their knee, we don't scold them for crying. We comfort them, tend the wound, and help them feel safe. But when a child acts out, many of us default to punishment, forgetting that misbehavior is often a signal of distress, not a power play. This isn't to say that all behavior is acceptable, far from it. But it is to say that understanding must come before correction. Because once a child feels understood and soothed, they are far more capable of learning better choices. A beautiful real-life example from the book involves a young boy who hits his sibling during a game. His parents might be tempted to punish right away, maybe take away toys or send him to timeout. But instead, they pause. They connect. "You were really frustrated when your sister knocked over your blocks, weren't you?" The boy nods, teary-eyed. The parent continues, "It's okay to be mad, but it's not okay to hit. Let's figure out another way you can express your anger next time." That moment, calm, firm, and connected, does far more than punishment ever could. It teaches emotional regulation. It models empathy. And it lays the groundwork for real change. Chapter 2 also emphasizes the importance of parental self-awareness. Sometimes, our child's behavior triggers unresolved feelings in us: anger, shame, powerlessness, and we react from that place. The authors invite us to check in with ourselves before disciplining. Am I calm? Am I present? Am I trying to teach, or just trying to control? This kind of reflection isn't always easy. But it's powerful. Because when we regulate ourselves, we're better able to help our children regulate themselves. The chapter closes with a hopeful message: even when we mess up, and we all do, it's never too late to reconnect and repair. An apology, a hug, a do-over, these are all tools that build trust and model accountability. So, instead of seeing discipline as a moment of conflict, we begin to see it as an opportunity. A doorway to teaching. A bridge to connection. A chance to say, I see you. I understand you. And I'm here to help you grow. Now that we've softened our lens to see misbehavior as communication, as an unmet need or an emotional struggle, Chapter 3 gently hands us one of the most powerful tools in parenting: connection before correction. This idea may seem simple, even obvious. But in the heat of the moment, when a child is melting down, throwing toys, screaming, I hate you, the last thing most parents feel like doing is connecting. We want to fix it. End it. Regain control. But what this chapter makes beautifully clear is this: before a child can learn, they need to feel felt. Think about a time you were overwhelmed, maybe frustrated at work, or heartbroken from an argument. Imagine someone walking up to you and saying, calm down. You're being ridiculous. Would that help? Probably not. But what if instead, they said, I see this is really hard for you. I'm here. That simple act of presence and understanding can soften even the hardest emotions. That's exactly how our children feel. When they're drowning in big feelings, what they need most isn't a lecture, but connection. The book paints this beautifully with the image of a child in a storm. When the emotional winds are raging, they need us to be the calm in the center. That doesn't mean we excuse bad behavior, but it means we first reach for empathy. We get down to their eye level. We offer a gentle touch. We name the feeling, you're really angry right now. Or, I know you're disappointed. This is not about giving in. It's about creating a safe emotional space where the child feels seen, and only then can they begin to hear what we have to say. And here's where the neuroscience gently enters. The authors explain that when a child is upset, their upstairs brain, the part responsible for logic, reasoning, and empathy, is offline. The downstairs brain, all impulse and emotion, has taken over. If we try to lecture or punish while they're in that state, it's like trying to reason with someone during a fire alarm. Nothing sticks. So instead of reacting, we pause. We co-regulate. That might mean offering a calm presence, sitting in silence, or simply saying, I'm right here. It may take a minute, or several, but once the child begins to settle, their upstairs brain can come back online. Now we can talk. Now we can teach. There's a sweet example in the book of a dad whose daughter is in full meltdown mode because she can't have a second dessert. Instead of scolding her or trying to explain why, he takes a breath, gets down on one knee, and says, you really wanted that cookie. It's hard when we can't have what we want. She sobs into his shoulder, and he holds her. No punishment. No lecture. Just presence. Minutes later, once the storm has passed, she's calm enough to hear, let's talk about how we handle disappointment, okay? That, right there, is the heart of no-drama discipline. It's not permissiveness. It's not ignoring behavior. It's teaching through connection. Parents often worry, won't this make me seem weak? Aren't I letting my child get away with it? The book reassures us, absolutely not. In fact, this kind of connection builds respect, resilience, and emotional intelligence. Children don't learn best when they're afraid. They learn best when they feel safe and understood. The chapter ends with a reminder that children mirror what they experience. If we yell, they learn to yell. If we shut down, they do too. But if we show calm, empathy, and respectful boundaries, they learn to do the same. It's not about perfection. It's about presence. After laying the foundation that discipline is about teaching, and that connection comes before correction, this chapter shifts into answering the burning question every parent asks, okay, but what do I actually do when my child misbehaves? Chapter 4 opens by acknowledging a common frustration. Many parents feel stuck between two extremes, either being too harsh and reactive, or too lenient and unsure. The beauty of this chapter is that it shows us there's a third way, a path that blends firmness and kindness, that keeps the relationship intact while still holding clear limits. The authors introduce what they call the 3 basic questions of no-drama discipline. Why did my child act this way? What lesson do I want to teach in this moment? How can I best teach that lesson? These questions act like a pause button. Instead of jumping to punishment or yelling, we take a breath and think through what's actually going on. It's a shift from reacting to responding with intention. Let's take a simple example. Imagine your 6-year-old hits her little brother. You're angry, maybe even embarrassed. Your first instinct might be to shout, "What is wrong with you?" But if you use the first question, "Why did my child act this way?" you may realize she's tired, hungry, or feeling jealous. She doesn't know how to handle those big feelings yet. That insight leads you to a better second question: what lesson do I want to teach? Maybe it's how to handle frustration. Maybe it's learning empathy. Then comes the third question: how can I teach that lesson? Maybe it's pulling her aside and saying, "I see you're upset, but hurting isn't okay. Let's figure out what's going on together." It's not about excusing the behavior, it's about choosing the most effective way to teach so that real learning happens. The book offers many tools, but a few stand out in this chapter. One is the idea of name it to tame it, helping kids understand and label their feelings. A child who can say, "I'm really mad," is far less likely to throw something. By giving them emotional vocabulary, we empower them to self-regulate. Another tool is the concept of replay and redo. Let's say your child yells at you because they didn't want to stop playing. Later, when they're calm, you might say, "Let's try that again. Can you tell me in a respectful way that you didn't want to stop?" This gentle rehearsal helps them practice the right behavior without shame. The chapter also introduces the idea of time-ins instead of timeouts. Rather than sending a child away when they're at their worst, we sit with them. We stay present, offering co-regulation until they're ready to talk. This helps children feel safe and teaches that even their worst moments don't make them unlovable or alone. And yes, boundaries are still important. In fact, this chapter emphasizes that children need structure. But when limits are set with calm, consistent compassion, they become something children can trust, not something they fear. Here's an example. Let's say your toddler keeps throwing food at dinner. You've asked them to stop, but they're testing limits. A traditional approach might be to yell, scold, or send them away. The no-drama approach would sound like this: throwing food tells me you're all done. If you throw again, we'll have to end dinner. Then if it happens again, okay, looks like we're done for now. Calm. Clear. No drama. Over time, these consistent, respectful responses build understanding. Your child learns not only what's expected, but that their parent is calm, in control, and safe to depend on, even during tough moments. Chapter 4 is really where it all starts to click. We learn that discipline isn't a one-size-fits-all system. It's more like being a coach, guiding, teaching, correcting, but always with empathy. One powerful reflection from this chapter is that the best discipline moments are often quiet, not loud. They're filled with listening, not lecturing. They leave a child with dignity, not shame. And they strengthen the relationship rather than damage it. By the end of this chapter, you feel less like a punisher and more like a teacher, someone who helps your child grow, even through mistakes. Chapter 5 is all about navigating discipline during emotionally intense moments, not just for our kids, but for ourselves too. Because even the most well-intentioned parents can lose their cool when they're tired, stressed, or simply overwhelmed by their child's behavior. And let's be honest, nothing tests our patience like a screaming toddler in public or a defiant preteen slamming doors. This chapter begins by reminding us of something both simple and profound: our state of mind matters. A dysregulated parent cannot help a dysregulated child. If our nervous system is in fight or flight, if we're shouting or threatening or reacting out of anger, then the moment is no longer about teaching, it's about surviving. And kids don't learn best when they're afraid or confused. They learn best when they feel safe, seen, and understood. So what's the alternative? The book suggests one key practice that changes everything: pausing before responding. That tiny moment. The breath between your child's meltdown and your next move is where wisdom lives. It's where you can ask yourself, what does my child need right now? What do I want them to learn from this? Imagine this: your 5-year-old knocks over their cereal on purpose, again. You've cleaned the floor 3 times already. You feel the anger rise. But instead of yelling, you pause. You breathe. You remind yourself, he's not giving me a hard time, he's having a hard time. Maybe he's craving connection. Maybe he doesn't have the words to ask for help. So instead of reacting, you kneel down, look into his eyes, and say, "You seem upset. Let's figure this out together." That doesn't mean there are no consequences. But it means the lesson happens in a space of calm, not chaos. One of the most powerful ideas in this chapter is the concept of discipline as a dance. It's not about control or power. It's a back-and-forth rhythm between parent and child, where both are trying to feel seen and heard. And like any good dance, someone has to lead, and that someone is you. The authors encourage us to become what they call the calm in the storm. Our children may thrash and scream and test every limit, but our job isn't to match their chaos. It's to be their anchor. When we stay grounded, we give them something solid to hold on to, and eventually, they begin to internalize that calm as their own. There's also a reminder in this chapter that discipline doesn't have to happen immediately. In fact, waiting until both of you are calm is often more effective. If your child is in meltdown mode, it's okay to say, "We'll talk about this later," when you're ready. That doesn't mean you're letting things slide. It means you're choosing the right time to teach the right lesson. This chapter also touches gently on repair, something all parents need to hear. Because even with the best intentions, we will mess up. We'll shout when we meant to listen. We'll react when we meant to reflect. And when that happens, we're invited not into shame, but into reconnection. A simple, honest apology: "I'm sorry I yelled. I was frustrated. I love you and we'll figure this out together." Models responsibility, empathy, and emotional intelligence in a way no lecture ever could. By the end of chapter 5, we're reminded of this truth: discipline isn't just what we do to our kids, it's something we do with them. It's a conversation. A relationship. A practice. And when we approach it with calm, clarity, and compassion, we not only guide their behavior, we shape their character. Your calm is their safety. Your pause is their learning. And your presence, more than anything else, is what helps them grow. Let's now continue into chapter 6, a chapter that offers one of the most empowering shifts in mindset a parent can make: seeing discipline not as a battle to win, but as a chance to build up the skills your child doesn't yet have. This chapter reminds us that discipline is less about what to take away, and more about what to build in. When our children misbehave, instead of just reacting or punishing, we can use those moments to teach, guide, and coach them toward better behavior, not just for now, but for the long run. The authors call this idea discipline as skill building, and it's a powerful reframing. Let's pause and think about it. If your child can't ride a bike, you don't yell at them for falling. You get alongside them, steady their handlebars, and help them practice. You break it down step by step. You teach. And you accept that learning will take time, effort, and mistakes along the way. This chapter says, why not treat emotional and behavioral skills the same way? When your child hits their sibling, talks back, or slams the door, chances are they're lacking some vital skill: managing frustration, using words instead of actions, controlling impulses, or handling big emotions. These aren't moral failings, they're missing tools. And discipline becomes truly effective when we stop punishing what's missing and start building what's missing. Here's an example from the book: a child is constantly grabbing toys from others. Instead of just saying, "Don't do that," over and over again, we step in and teach the social skill they're lacking. Maybe we say, let's try asking if you can have a turn, and we practice it with them. We even role-play. Over time, with consistency and patience, the skill starts to develop, not from shame, but from support. The authors introduce a simple but brilliant concept here: name it, explain it, and rehearse it. First, we name the skill that's missing. It looks like you're having trouble waiting your turn. Then, we explain why the skill matters. When we wait, it helps everyone feel respected. And finally, we rehearse the better behavior. Let's pretend we're at school and your friend has the ball. What can you say instead of grabbing it? This kind of discipline takes a little more time than shouting, "Stop it," or handing out timeouts, but it pays off in lasting behavior change. You're not just managing the moment, you're shaping the future. This chapter also encourages parents to look at behavior patterns. If the same issue keeps coming up, it's probably because your child hasn't mastered the skill that would solve it. That's not defiance, it's development. And there's an important message here for the parent, too: you don't have to teach the whole lesson in one moment. Sometimes, especially in the heat of the situation, the best thing you can do is calm the storm, and wait for a quiet moment later to talk, reflect, and teach. The chapter also gives permission to be creative. Use stories, games, role-playing, or drawing to teach your child about their feelings, actions, and better choices. If your child struggles with transitions, create a song or routine. If they're always yelling, practice whisper games or emotion charades. Discipline becomes not just correction, but connection through play and learning. By the end of chapter 6, what becomes beautifully clear is this: discipline is an investment. And every moment of misbehavior is a chance to build skills your child will need for life: patience, empathy, resilience, communication, and responsibility. It's a shift from controlling your child to coaching them. So the next time your child misbehaves, try asking, what skill are they missing? And how can I help them build it? With that mindset, you'll find less drama, and a lot more growth. By now, we've learned that discipline isn't about punishment, but about teaching. We've explored how connection calms the brain and creates space for learning. We've looked at how misbehavior is often a reflection of unmet needs or undeveloped skills. But here's the next big question parents often ask: okay, but how do I remember all this in the heat of the moment? Chapter 7 offers a simple, powerful tool that helps you do just that. It's called the No Drama Discipline, Whole Brain Discipline Strategy Wheel. And don't worry, it's not technical. In fact, it's designed to help parents simplify their response in 3 core steps: receptive, reflective, and responsive. Let's break this down in a way that's easy to visualize. First, there's the receptive stage. This is where we recognize what state our child is in. Are they overwhelmed? Are they able to receive teaching? This stage is all about connection. Before any lesson can be taught, the brain must feel safe. So if your child is melting down or shutting down, this is your cue to pause and connect. No lectures. No logic. Just calm presence, empathy, and understanding. Second comes the reflective stage. This is for the parent. It's your moment to check in with yourself before responding. Ask yourself, what's really going on here? What's my child feeling? What's the lesson I want to teach? This small moment of reflection can make the difference between reacting out of frustration and responding with purpose. And finally, the responsive stage. This is where you take action. But now, instead of yelling or punishing, your response is guided by clarity and connection. Maybe you help your child problem solve, or practice a better behavior, or make amends. It's not always quick or perfect, but it's meaningful, and it's brain building. This whole process, connect, reflect, respond, becomes a rhythm. A way of thinking and parenting that reduces power struggles and increases emotional intelligence on both sides of the relationship. Here's an example from the book that brings it all to life. A young boy throws a tantrum because his mom turns off the iPad. She's tempted to shout, "Enough. Go to your room." But instead, she connects first. "I know it's hard to stop something you're enjoying." She reflects, "He's not trying to disrespect me, he's frustrated and lacking transition skills." Then she responds, "Let's make a plan for how we stop next time. Maybe a timer and a warning." That's no drama discipline in action, calm, connected, and growth-focused. What's so valuable about this chapter is that it doesn't ask parents to be perfect. It acknowledges that this kind of discipline takes practice. Some days we'll be patient and calm. Other days, we'll lose our cool. And that's okay, because every moment is a chance to model learning, repair, and love. Chapter 7 also emphasizes that discipline isn't a moment, it's a relationship. It's the 1,000 little interactions that shape how our kids see us, and more importantly, how they learn to see themselves. A child who's corrected with empathy learns that mistakes don't make them bad, they're just opportunities to grow. And isn't that what we all want for our kids? To know that they can mess up and still be loved. That they can struggle and still be guided, not with shame, but with support. So as we close this chapter, here's the heart of the message: you don't have to choose between being kind and being firm. You can be both. You can hold your child accountable while still holding space for their feelings. You can guide their behavior while also building their brain. You can discipline with connection, not control. And when you do, you don't just change your child's behavior, you change the relationship. You build trust. You build resilience. You build a foundation that will carry your child for life. As we come to the final chapter of No Drama Discipline, the message becomes both clearer and more deeply felt: discipline isn't about controlling behavior. It's about building relationships, and shaping a child's heart and brain with intention. Throughout this book, we've been invited to reimagine discipline as a journey, not a single moment of correction, but an ongoing process of teaching, guiding, and growing together. The last chapter zooms out and gives us something even more meaningful: the long-term view. When we look beyond just getting our kids to listen right now, we start asking bigger, deeper questions. Who is my child becoming? What kind of relationship do I want with them when they're 16, or 26? What are the values I want to pass on, and how do I model those in the hard moments, not just the easy ones? The authors emphasize that the ultimate goal of discipline is to help children develop internal control. Not just to behave well when we're watching, but to make wise, kind choices when we're not. And how do they learn that? Through experiences, not fear. Through modeling, not micromanaging. Through connection, not shame. The final message is this: every time your child misbehaves, you have a choice. You can react out of frustration and try to stop the behavior at all costs. Or, you can slow down, connect, and ask, what can I teach here? How can I help my child become more aware, more compassionate, more capable? One of the most powerful reflections in this chapter is that discipline is never about perfection, it's about repair. You will mess up. You will lose your cool. You'll say things you wish you hadn't. But every mistake is also a moment to come back, to reconnect, to say, I'm sorry. Let's try again. And in doing so, you don't just model behavior, you model humanness. You show your child what accountability looks like. You teach them that relationships can be repaired. That love holds steady, even when emotions are high. This chapter also offers a gift to parents who feel exhausted by the idea of getting it right all the time. The authors gently remind us, it's not about being perfect. It's about being present. Just showing up with curiosity, compassion, and a willingness to learn alongside your child is more than enough. So, what are the big takeaways from No Drama Discipline? First, that connection is the foundation for all learning. Before a child can hear you, they need to feel safe with you. Second, that misbehavior is often a symptom, not the problem. It's a clue. A signal. A call for guidance. Third, that teaching is more powerful than punishing. We can build skills instead of just handing out consequences. And finally, that discipline done with empathy doesn't weaken the parent-child bond, it strengthens it. It turns conflict into connection. It transforms power struggles into teachable moments. It lays the foundation for trust, resilience, and emotional intelligence. So if you're a parent listening to this right now and thinking, "This is so different from how I was raised," or "I wish I had known this sooner," take heart. It's never too late. Every moment is a new chance to grow, to show up differently, to lead with love and calm and clarity. You won't always get it right. But you'll keep learning. And so will your child. Thank you for listening to this summary of No Drama Discipline. I hope it offered you not just insight, but comfort, a sense that you're not alone, and that there is a better way forward. If this resonated with you, I invite you to explore the full book for even deeper guidance, real-life scripts, and science-backed strategies. And if you're ready to keep learning, reflecting, and growing as a parent, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more audiobook-style summaries like this one, designed to support you with wisdom, warmth, and real-life parenting help. Parenting isn't about perfection, it's about connection. And every moment, even the hard ones, can be a step toward a more peaceful, purposeful relationship with your child.